Is 2017's Mother overpacked with heavy-handed symbolism, or is it a pretentious piece of crap devoid of anything at all? What's up, everyone? I am Wink.
And I am Skillz.
And this is Scream Cheese. Today we are going to be talking about Mother from 2017, directed by Darren Aronofsky and starring Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. Skillz, normally I would ask you to describe what a movie is about or what happens in a movie. And the funny thing is, I just bought this movie on Blu-ray, and reading the back of it, they don't even describe what happens in the movie. It's so hard to describe. What the hell is this movie about?
It is an allegory for, to me personally, in things that I've read and heard, it's an allegory for basically the Bible. Here's a tricky thing about it. So before I watched this, Jared had said, there's something I kind of want to tell you about this before you watch it because I think it will make the experience richer. And we kind of went back and forth on whether he should share it with me, and eventually he didn't. Now, having seen the film, I wish he had, because after
I knew I landed on the wrong side of that, man.
Yeah.
I had already started watching the movie. I essentially paused it. I was really enjoying it. And then I came back to it later, and somebody spilled to me that it was an allegory. And it made even the beginning part that I had watched before so much more enjoyable. So you had that experience, huh? You would have preferred if I would have mentioned it?
Yeah, definitely. And there is a clip where Jennifer Lawrence, the main actress in the film, says the exact same thing. And the reason is because this is not your typical film. This is a Darren Aronofsky film, and I am like a massive fan of him. To me, there are very good directors out there, but he is a true filmmaker. And a true filmmaker, when they make a film, they want it to have a deeper meaning. They don't want to just go with the basic run-of-the-mill story. And they're usually going to have a divisive audience based on what they present. But to me, it's almost like going into a football game not knowing the rules. Yeah. You know, it's not a spoiler. It's like you need to know kind of this stuff before you go into this film. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to love it, but it does dramatically change like your viewing experience.
Yeah, it's a little roadmap so you can kind of interpret the things you're seeing as you go along. You're getting kind of the story as it's being told, but then you actually have the decoder map to tell you, okay, but here's what it actually means as well.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And just in a nutshell, the positives for me are impeccable filmmaking. Like, I am a huge fan of this director. I've seen, I think, almost every film of his. I think he's amazing. Requiem for a Dream is probably in my at least top 20 films of all time. It just was such an amazing experience watching that film when it first came out. Next up, you know, the performances, like me and Wink talked about this, but everybody in this is incredible, you know, and I know that comes down to the directing and the writing, but to me, Jennifer Lawrence, her performance was Oscar worthy. Javier Bardem was incredible as always. And it was nice seeing Ed Harris and then Michelle Pfeiffer. I thought they both did so well. What caught me off guard, one of my favorite actresses, believe it or not, was Kristen Wiig. I love Kristen Wiig. That was so cool seeing her randomly pop up in this film, because you wouldn't have expected someone like her to be in a film like this. The tone, the atmosphere, everything about it, like from a objective point of view, was just incredible to me.
Number one, yes, I agree with you. The filmmaking to me was really awesome. The thing that I appreciate the most about it, everybody involved in front of and behind the camera all know exactly what they're doing. There is a lot that we don't understand, and a lot of it is even open to interpretation, but I feel like everybody has done their homework and everybody is strong enough in their position on this film that they have the answers as how they see it. It's brilliant to me. And then as far as you bring up performances, I had not seen Jennifer Lawrence or Javier Bardem in many things at all. This is actually like my first real taste of both of them. And so I was blown away by both of them. There is one thing to be a talented actor or actress, right? It's another thing to be able to be a lead in a film and carry a film. Then there is another thing altogether to be in a film like this, where we are seeing the entire thing through your perspective and your responses, and for you to be able to be effective in that when you are dealing with things that are completely insane and over the top, and also things that are incredibly subtle that don't seem to necessarily make sense or have like your audience doesn't necessarily know the answers and you have to respond accordingly to those as well. Her performance is just so good. And I felt the same way about Javier Bardem. I would say their performances in this film, knowing a little bit more about them now, having seen a little bit more of their performances after I saw this, I would say these are two of the best actors of our lifetime.
No doubt.
I think that they're incredible. You brought up like the tone. I agree. It's really incredible just in that we really don't always know what's going on. We're always getting new information. And from Jennifer Lawrence's point of view, we kind of don't get what's going on ever. And I don't know, it just feels like a very cool balancing act with the tone of figuring things out and having new information provided and things being clearer and less clear. It's neat. Jim, what didn't you like about this film? I want to know. I'm dying to know.
I only have two negatives. This is an allegory for basically God and Mother Earth, and he follows all of the key points in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, God, he created man sinned, he brought like a savior into the world, and then we killed the savior, and there's an apocalypse, and then it gets to the point where we have to start all over again. And it was interesting to me too, because I'm watching this film, and Javier is so good, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, dude, your beautiful wife is like hurting, and you're just, it was like such an interesting dynamic, because it wasn't like he was an asshole. He was like this charming guy that you actually liked. He was so just this happy guy that everybody loved, but the whole time seemingly his wife is just falling apart. She wants his attention. And for someone like me that's more of an introvert, there was so much emotional tension of all these people invading the house and coming into the house and filling up the house and all that kind of stuff.
One of the things I've noticed when looking up other people talking about this film is they'll talk about Javier Bardem's character and how he was very selfish. The fact that you brought up how charming he was, one thing that's interesting in my interpretation of this film, I don't find him to be like selfish. I found him to be like our guiding light. And like when everything was bad, it was almost like she would have a look of like, what are you doing? And he'd just smile, and it was like, he knows this is bad. He knows it's not good, but he has the plan. So just follow, be okay with me. And like, dude, some of those small moments where I caught those looks between them, dude, I literally was brought to tears by little things he would do and say to her with that allegory in mind where he's God, you know? And it's like, like, it's okay. It's not okay. It's terrible, but it is okay.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, because I feel like in the film, you know, on the surface, he's a writer. Writers generally are introverted people, but in this film, it is like the biggest contrast of an introvert and an extrovert. She's an introvert. She wants to have like their private life, and he's an extrovert. A stranger shows up at the door, wants to come and stay. He's cool with it, man. He just loves all these people. The more the merrier kind of mentality. You know, and obviously it turns out that he is kind of like a symbol of God, and he wants to be worshipped. My biggest negative is this. So the Bible is kind of like basically a book on the salvation of mankind. And a lot of people will consider it God's love letter to mankind. Now, you know, when we get into religion, people are going to have all types of different views on that because of numerous reasons. But when it's all said and done, there is a overall meaning behind the Bible. And I think with this did the job of kind of looking at everything objectively. Like this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And now we're going to start all over again. The little nitpick is I would have liked to had an overall meaning behind everything that Darren presented to us, like a stronger meaning. Because what we have right now is a story that if you don't really know what it's about, you're kind of confused, even though it's still entertaining and great filmmaking. Once you know it's an allegory for something else, it just takes it to a whole nother level. But having said that, he didn't give us a message, which you don't have to, but there's not like an overall meaning to the entire thing. Like I'm making a commentary on this about this particular thing.
So he is. So his message was that this film was a warning to humanity about global warming, and it's using the Bible as the framework. But in the end, it's really a story about, you know, people destroying the earth and what that does, what ultimately it does. So I feel like there is kind of that deeper meaning and message. But again, you're right in that it's not like you don't get the pamphlet ahead of time that says, okay, you're going to be watching something that's not going to be related to this, but in the end, just know it's about this, you know? Unfortunately, it's kind of left up to your interpretation.
Yeah, no, and that is definitely there. You're right. And I did like that. I mean, I really love this film, dude. I'm not gonna like be shy about that. There's a lot of things I'm shy about, but this film is not one of them.
The one thing I was really concerned about is you had heard before you watched the movie about the baby at the end.
Yeah.
And you were concerned that that was just going to destroy the entire movie for you. Did that?
Yeah.
Or what did that do to you?
No, not at all. I'm glad that you actually pushed me and forced me. I'm glad you bullied me into watching this. No, it didn't at all. And that's kind of the problem. And I've had this experience with other films where people will bring up something that was really disturbing to them. And the kind of mind I have, I take that to like level 100. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to see that. And then when I actually see it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't bad. In fact, that was necessary. I'm glad that was in the film. So, I mean, obviously it's disturbing, you know, a cute little baby, but it wasn't like, I don't want to sit there and watch something drug out, but it wasn't that kind of scene. It was there for a reason. It was symbolic. It happened quick, and it all fit within the framework of the story that was being told.
So, like, it was there for a shock, I believe, but it wasn't there to shock and disgust you to the point where you couldn't continue. It wasn't there to destroy you in a way that you couldn't be present any longer.
It was clear to me that the baby represented Jesus. You know, it's like Jennifer Lawrence has a baby with God, and he's like, how do you know? We just had sex last night. She's like, I know. And that's very, that's just like in the Bible. She was given a message by an angel that she was pregnant, so she knew she didn't have to go through the normal things that a woman goes through to discover she's pregnant. She knew right away. And this baby came into the world, and all of his fans or the believers, rejoiced, and they brought gifts, and then eventually they killed the baby, just like they killed Jesus. I love the film, but it's the kind of thing where we get to the end and it's like, okay, we're gonna repeat this now, because the way the film ends, it starts the way it started at the beginning, and I'm like, that's the part where I would kind of like a little bit more meaning, as far as like, okay, so I know you as a director are trying to convey certain things through these choices and these events, but beyond that, on more of a surface level meaning, what are your thoughts of all of these things? Not just that they happen, but like, what is the meaning behind all this? Because if it goes to God just repeating things over and over again, that almost makes it meaningless, I guess, in a way, to where like this is just going to keep repeating itself. We're going to go through the same cycle over and over and over and over again. It's going to be a new Mother Earth and stuff like that, is where I want a little bit more like meaning as far as what was the point of it all. So anyways, dude, I'm rambling.
I'm in love with this film. I really am. But what you're saying is kind of my only gripe with the film as well. It's not exactly the same, but so one of my problems is the fact that this film does happen in kind of a snow globe, where it is all its own thing. It's its own. Every movie is its own story, but this is disconnected from reality in such a way. It would just work for me more if it were connected to the world that we lived in more, if it wasn't such a theatrical piece in that way.
That's a good point.
But I do kind of feel like I could easily, based on all the material that we have, I could tell you like what his point of view is on it and why we're recurring and like all this, and say that he does answer that. But I feel like that is a personal thing. The biggest problem people have with this film is they believe that it's pretentious and it's offensive and all these things, and I truly believe that this film is not pretentious at all. It is actually the real deal. This is a masterful piece of art that anybody can look at, and we can find out what Darren Aronofsky wanted you to think, and we can find out what Jennifer Lawrence wanted you to think, but it is so logically consistent as a piece of art that you can determine what the meaning is for you, and it will work. It will absolutely work. So yeah, I just loved it, dude. I absolutely love this film. This is the type of film that I imagine I wouldn't love. In fact, I would tell you, if somebody described all of this movie to me, I would say, man, it sounds like something I probably wouldn't like, except for like that chaotic part at the end. I bet I would really enjoy that, because like I just know my taste in things, but it's actually quite the opposite for me. Like the subtlety of everything happening in the simpler parts of the movie is so enjoyable to me that like the end part is not even the star of the film, even though that's the like awe-inspiring part. And I would just ask one thing, Skillz. Could you imagine this film not having Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem level actors? If you just put like anyone, dude, you couldn't make this movie. Already people can't necessarily connect with it. Dude, like you have to have brilliant actors actors in this movie to make it work. And to me, I mean, they made it work.
No, that's a great point, because that's when, for my personal taste, when I know a film is a great film to me, is when you literally can't imagine anybody else. Like, there's been films where they said originally they were going to cast this person, and I'm like, oh, that would have been interesting, or this is the kind of film where the actors embrace the characters. The story and the material is so strong, it all becomes one. Yeah, so in conclusion, I absolutely loved it. I know that it's not for everybody, and that is kind of the tough part about it. I will look for a reason to watch this film again. However, this would be a very tough film for me to recommend to your average film goer, because I know that I love stuff like this. There's other films like this that I love that I've actually gotten into arguments with people, because it's not, some people just want to go out and have a good time and feel good, and this is not that kind of film. You're not going to feel good, but, well, I felt good, but the average person isn't going to feel good. But anyways, I loved it. I struggled with my score, and this may change in the future, but right now I'm going to give it an 8.5.
I don't want to be like nuts, but I am going to give it a solid 10 from me. I think this might legitimately be one of my favorite movies of all time. I understand that there are people that are going to hate this movie. I feel the same way. You can't even recommend this movie because some people are going to connect to it, and it's not even wrong that some people are not going to like it in the slightest. But for whatever reason, dude, I connected so hard to this movie. Dude, I'm not even religious, and dude, I love the religious allegory. I'm moved by it.
Wait a minute. Why do you have that Jesus tattoo on your back then?
Well, that's just aesthetic. You know?
That's just to pick up the chicks.
Exactly, man. But this movie is like a masterpiece to me. It's like perfection to me. And it's so strange to me how this movie, like, I just knew in the first like 40 minutes, the first time that I sat down to watch it, and then I paused it because I wanted to find somebody to share the experience with. I realized I was connecting that hard with it. It sucks that I know that people are going to hate it, and they're not wrong for that. It's just not for everyone.
Yeah, and I will tell you that, believe it or not, a 10 did cross my mind, but me giving it an 8.5 is leaving room for it to grow.
Sure.
I don't see it going lower. It's just the first time I've seen it, and this is kind of all overwhelming. If somebody told me they gave it a 10 like you, I'd say, hey, I get it, man. To me, it's that kind of film where this is like true filmmaking.
Yeah.
This isn't for everybody, but it's in that masterpiece, like rarefied air of like, this is filmmaking. This is like really just awesome, like material. So
dude, one last thing, because it goes along with what you're saying. It's brilliant filmmaking. There is such attention to detail that, like, I will tell you one thing right now that you may or may not have seen, right? Jennifer Lawrence, throughout the entire movie, her hair is like changing, like it's going into different braids and being put up differently.
Okay.
I could sit here and tell you why I think that's happening or what they were intending by. I honestly have not a clue, dude. But it mattered either to Jennifer Lawrence or to whoever was in charge of hair and makeup. Everybody is doing their job masterfully, dude. They are all telling stories.
That is a good point. And that's the thing. With a director like this, when you're in his hands, like, you trust him.
Yeah.
And like the thing you just brought up, in my mind, every single shot, every set design, every hairstyle, everything has a purpose. And to the average film goer, they might not give a crap. But when you're really into like film like this, you appreciate that kind of stuff. And you realize that there is no way Darren was going to let her hair change without it going past him and without it having some type of specific meaning to him. You know what I mean? All right,
anyway,
well, we've been talking for like 30 minutes, so.
We talked too long, but it was really important to me just because I like this movie so much.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I feel like I really love this film, so I think it was, it was going to happen.
I'm so stoked that you connected with it as well. Make sure to comment your thoughts on the movie in the comment section below. Hit the like button. I guess until next time, peace out, cheesers.
Peace out.